But anyway, so now we're recording again. We were able to connect the device. Once you have the device connected, I'll just show this real quick and then go over the scene. I'm looking in the Oculus now. When you're inside the device connection, it has like a different menu window that's like this weird gray area, which you guys will see eventually. And the connection actually sucks. It's really bad because it's just over this Wi. It's just over this USB cable, and so it's not a great connection. But it works a lot better when you publish the scene. Anyway, it also turns off immediately when I move the headset, which is why I keep. But anyway, if I play the Godot scene, you can see that it's connected to the headset. Although I have to really I literally as soon as I move it off of my eyes, it stops moving. So I'm trying to yeah, it's still moving. Then you have the two controllers. One can move back, forth, left, and right. Of course, you can look around. The raycast on the right has a raycast layer, which we'll look at in just a second, and you can click on the buttons using that for the menu. And then the left hand controller has the little teleportation beam, so you can point to where you want to teleport, and then you can use the joystick to change the orientation to look around different parts of the scene. And you can set the settings for how far you want to teleport and stuff like that in the scene setup. So you can test stuff and design your scene and look around, and that's pretty fun. So let's look at the actual scene setup. So these are all built-in things. So this is the menu scene, or actually this is level 1 scene. Forgot to change this node. But anyway, there's a ground for you to have something to stand on. This has the normal collision shape and the mesh. I don't I don't know if it'll actually. I think you really actually do need that there because otherwise you'll just fall. I didn't test falling off the end, but I think I put that there because you actually need it. Um, then I put in some random trees just to have some scenery. Obviously, you can put in your own stuff there. There's a directional light. We need some light in the scene. And then this is the viewport 2D and 3D, which has our buttons in it. This is actually a nested scene, but you need this thing in here to be able to see it. So that's this UI scene, which is just a little 2D scene. I just made this real quick just to have a way to move between different levels. There's just a little script here to load different scenes, and then some buttons we can add to this to add the other scenes. So then back in here, so the FP controller is the first person controller, and that comes from the Godot XR tools. So this is all just like built-in stuff that we can use, but you can change this stuff. So you can actually look at the scene itself if you want to look at the scene. It has all this stuff in it, but a lot of it is not turned on by default. But you can edit this stuff. So I opened it up and basically made some stuff editable and some stuff not editable. But you can completely remove components that you don't want to use. So you don't have to have a left-hand controller. You don't have to have a right-hand controller. I put these little boxes on here just so we could see where they are, but you also don't have to have those. You can easily delete that. And then I added the teleport function specifically onto this. So that's another thing. You can actually take different components from the XR tools and put them on different hands. So to do that, you would click on the controller you want to use and go to this instance, and then you can see all the stuff in here. So there's a lot of different stuff. There's the parts like left hand, right hand, all this stuff. But then there's the function. So pick up, pointer, pose detector, teleport, climb, crouch, direct, flight. So there's a lot of functions in here that you can use that are not in the default scene. Grapple, jump. So you can put these onto the hands and then map the buttons that you want to control them. So there's a bunch of stuff in there that is not, in the default scene. On the right-hand controller, there's another little box, which you can delete if you want. And then there's movement. So that allows you to move around. There's a jump, which they have different triggers here. So you can look at all the different triggers. There's some documentation for this. I'll put a link to it. I forget exactly where it is right now. But the VR trigger is like the trigger on the front. So you can jump. I actually forgot about that, so I didn't demonstrate that, but you can jump using that, or you can map it to another button. There's flight, which is mapped to the VR button BY. So I think that's on the so that's either B or Y on either right or left. So you can use that to do flight, and then you can point at stuff. And so this is the one that has a little raycaster, the little red pointer. And so basically, this is set to only show when it's colliding with something. And you can actually change the laser the way it looks if you want. It's just this like really long, like red box, basically. Um, but you can change the color and change the way that looks if you want to. It's just this like really skinny red uh, box, basically right there. But you can see it's just like really tiny and big or long. But you can edit this. You can you know go to the material and change the color if you want. So it's red, but you might want it to be blue or something like that. So you really actually can change a lot of the different components in here. Um, and then there's the player body, which is like the little well, no, the beam is actually projecting where you're going to teleport to. The player body doesn't have any visuals, so you're not going to have a shadow or anything like that. But if you want to, you could add a mesh there so that there's like a little shadow for the player. But yeah, that's the basic setup. I think this is pretty good just to get started so you can move around the scene and look at stuff. And if you want to add other functionality, you can. We could talk about how to do that. But there's a lot of different ways that you could approach it. Yeah, that's all we're going to go over for now. Hopefully you guys can maybe try to get these working if you want to use the headsets. If you want to just play around with the scene, that's fine as well. The next steps will be to go over how to basically publish this back to the original GitHub repo, and then we'll go over building an app that can be deployed on the headset by itself, so you don't have to have it plugged in to the computer, because it's not very fun, obviously. It's fine for developing, but these USB cables are pretty short, and so if you have to be plugged into the computer the whole time, you don't really get the same sense of motion. So publishing the app is the only way to get it onto the device where you don't have to have it plugged in. All right, so I'll put up this part